Good evening. You have the special treat of seeing us setting up before the meeting. So sit tight, fixing channels here, but you're going to see us working. So. Looking good, folks.
You're okay?
Yeah, looks like we're set.
Alright, so this is looking much better.
That'll be fine.
Yeah.
Thanks for mom.
Yeah, oh, yeah, sure. We're gonna start staying here, that's good, so when you get the order up,
The room? All the room
so
now.
you, so there's two fans on the same.
Okay, Robert, thanks. I'll speak to Betty about that.
Yeah, tell her. Yeah, sure. On Wednesday, we had a meeting right, just here at church. Just meeting in the minds of all these things. So she had some, my personal, not praise church. So, a couple of things, but when you come up with a computer, so many things they say, take another one, put it into a, like, what she wanted to do.
Drive-ins?
Yeah.
What site says that?
No, private doesn't say that. I'm saying when you go on the computer in general, you read all these things and it says, move the law before you take mandatory rule, all this stuff. She said, no. My friend, the accountant, said, no, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
I take 100,000 from there, pay ordinary tax on it, and ordinary income.
I spoke to the private. I can explain.
Right.
Changed everything.
Oh,
My sister and my brother.
Well, we're gonna do one. We are gonna do one. Take by Marion, example of Marion, and it's a little bit better if you can consolidate, just so that it's easier when you have the RMPs and stuff, we'll see.
Speaking of the
Oh, okay, but I'm saying, if you read them, sure, not from private, I mean, just in general, is not something that you should do.
yeah.
And they all, like, a lot of them say that, which is, I wasn't gonna do it anyway. She needs their next. So,
You should do what's in your best interest.
well, yeah, by law, this is right. And they usually like, Trinity or something. Getting hits. For a church, we do something else. Okay.
hit it off. We had a lot. The old boy, two or three of them. All of this, they remember my speech. They don't remember this agreement with Kobe, but they remember my speech because I expressed it by sitting on the desk with folded legs and just talking on the own stuff. And I think they put some kind of put some friends on this because they say, oh, so what are people going to speak? They're asking me kind of now. It's okay, I don't have to speak. But the questions are, eventually we'll have me and the other guy from Brooklyn, the bearded guy. He said, yeah, we're gonna do some take it. So the bearded guy from Brooklyn? I think but anyway, he did mention me, and he mentioned that he was endorsing his stuff. Saying it and really doing it. I guess I'm supposed to like call him and say, oh, yes, everyone, what do I do now? And I guess no, I don't remember. Like, no, it's actually somebody who was there, not that I remember. Somebody who was somebody just happened to now, and 2 weeks ago, what the other going to right? But, so, it's that kind of what the rebel, I can say, hey, I'm not going to record the so I'm good with that. I understand that Ken and Walter hate each other's guys. Walter and Tony.
Really?
Yeah.
That I didn't know.
Yeah. It's a real big hate.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
You know, it's Tony. You know, he agreed with me, but I had people telling me back at the barbecue. I had the guy running to the control and put it on. Hey, they can't out. And I was sure he got jealous and said, here, you want to put this on? No, I said, no, really, I want to put it on. Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, and for sure with my jacket. So, it's that vibe really is cute. A lot of stroking. How you doing, guys? Hey. Your seats are all over the place now. Nice meeting you. Nice to I'm going to wipe this down. This has to dry really quick. Texas Hold'em, 5-cent limit. Hey, who are you? Welcome. We're going to start in 15 minutes. And it's been raining, but I'm sure everybody's going to come. See you soon.
Lisa, actually, this is actually pretty relevant. Actually, whatever you have, public account, something like that, that over here. But I actually have to get ready, so you can stop the communication. So we will talk later. We say a lot of fascinating stuff, and you want to check that on my show again, just so you know. That's what I'm going to get. Thank you. Guys, feel out. We got my guy from LA. When you guys about this stuff, and then we're actually we're talking about working together. And actually, I think I'm expanding it too long. Yeah, I got people in Delaware since I put myself up. Cape Town Social, they're down, but I'm starting talking to those guys too. So there's a lot of exciting things coming. A lot of things looking up. I've been hustling hard for a long time. So some stuff is, we'll see where
Checking in again.
I gotta get ready for September. So I got so I'll let you later. It's good to talk to you, and we had great things to say about that. That's stuff today. That's so.
I see. That's some delay we got there. No, it has to be this chair.
You got one of these?
Yo. You look pretty today.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
All right, so good. It's an international day. It's called Black Women Day. It's an international day to remember the victims of communism. A lot of these young kids, all they hear from professors are how great communism is. But, you know, hopefully, honestly, we haven't been on part. We haven't really been teaching the kids, remembering the truth. We've been letting someone else do it for us. And we're getting what we deserve. So, good stuff. Woo!
It's good enough.
drying it off.
What's the main issue that you want? Everybody has a specialty what they know. More than people like learn more. I think one time I was like, how much does the public tax? You never have the right answer. How does this guy know this? That was pretty cool though.
Everything seems to be running. I've got an apparatus to hopefully switch screens without making it too messy.
Playing that song there.
I'm going to
And I guess the speakers are the volume be good.
I'll use the phone, bring it closer, and make sure that I get the maximum value. Okay, double checked, everything seems to be working. He's going to be playing the chord right.
It's not going to be here. He went to some meetings in the city.
That's fine. How's he doing? How's he doing? How's he feeling it up? Yeah. Easy.
But okay.
And we're live now, like, let's talk a little bit. So we're just about getting ready to get started. Getting ready to get started. That was heavy. So, very soon when we start the meeting, just so you know, we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, then a reading of the club's mission statement, a roll call of officers and other board members, and then the reading of the club's minutes from June 18th. Then we'll have a report from the financial secretary and treasurer. Committee reports will visit old business, have an announcement about the certification of the June 23rd primary on July 14th. New business will be about housing, where we have Mark Axinn, chair of co-op and condo practice group, Ed Lee, who's a housing activist, Melvin Rivera on Casa Pasiva housing, Tzlil Levy on landlord stories, Robert Speranza is expected to come running for state assembly in District 26, Bernard Vallersburg on Senate 22 primary, Sherry Olivo on Assembly 86 primary, Yahima Harris for State Assembly 55, which is on the Republican No Kings, and Latrice Walker, who first won in 2014. We're going to have Cristina Fontinelli for State Assembly District 75, Lou Pugliafito for State Assembly 76, and it's not in there, but hopefully I'll get to speak. I'm Ruben Cruz of Running for State Assembly in District 38, which covers Richmond Hill, Ozone Park, Woodhaven, Glendale, and Ridgewood. I call the section GROW to represent Glendale, Richmond Hill, Ridgewood, Ozone Park, and Woodhaven. After that, we'll have the 50-50 raffle, and we'll adjourn and have a great day. So any moment, we're getting ready to start. I'm going to get up and move around and make sure that we get everything set up. See you in a few minutes.
So have you done some of that stuff in the method?
I did.
Really?
Did I put it everywhere?
Did you notice, I don't know what year it was, maybe 3 meetings ago, there was a young lady named and she was kind of disorganized and I talked to her, I gave her some of that stuff. But she came at the next meeting and she was like a good person. I mean, I was looking, she was sitting there and the name thing was there. I was going back and forth because I wanted to make sure she was amazing. I am going to be adding more to them. There are going to be 2 sections. One is about how to get your own thoughts together, organize them, whatever. And then the second section is going to be about listening. And there's some things that I've learned about listening from Benjamin Franklin's autobiography. And then reference in that book, a book by a Greek general named Melvin, who was a student of Socrates. And Xenophon wrote a book called Conversations of Socrates. And it's really, because he recounted some conversations that he heard. I don't know where he was there. I don't know if he got a word for word or not, but it's got to be close. And
Recollections of all
And I've read both the Franklin and the Xenophon. And Xenophon, I don't know if I gave them to you. I've given them to you.
I think of Franklin and quote method of organizing yourself, which will be really good.
Yeah, Franklin was, he spent a lot of time and effort on improving himself. You know, the habits that he worked on, thrift and time management and all kinds of things like that. And he worked on those things throughout his life. Also, when he was young, he told me he could manage it. And it was very, you know,
Thank you very much for coming tonight. We're going to start the meeting at 7:30 in 2 more minutes. Okay? We're going to have basically one of our guest speakers tonight to lead us with the Pledge of Allegiance, Mark Axinn. And also one of our speakers tonight is Cristina Fontinelli. She's an opera singer. She's also going to be singing tonight. So in about another minute, we're going to start the meeting.
Thanks for coming and doing this.
Yeah. We had some flooding
But anyway,
in my area.
based
Over
on
on
what I
Jackie
saw
Robinson.
from,
There's some flooding over here too on the Union Turnpike. Yeah.
and
yeah.
I've heard from a couple of people, this is nice.
Yeah.
It's really beneficial. I just hope we use it more. Anybody with any specific
It's a thing with the UI. I've tested models back and forth over the website.
yeah.
When you have those tools, you can plug into site drop.
Okay, 7:30. Would you, Cristina, Mark, can you please come up? The flag is over here. Ruben, probably need your guidance. Come over here.
Can you say?
I guess Mark is going to start us with the Pledge of Allegiance, and afterwards, Cristina Fontinelli is going to sing for us. So,
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
and Cristina, would you please, our opera singer, and she is a professional opera singer. Do you know who wrote the Star Spangled Banner? Do you know who wrote the song? Yes, Francis Scott Key. Now, I'm from Maryland. When I grew up in Frederick, Maryland. Yeah, exactly. Former Mary and Francis Scott Key was from Frederick County. Okay. There's actually one more song I like to play. It's from one of my club member, Levy. Okay. He wrote a song called Keep America, America, and tonight is the first time he allows us to basically have a debut of his song, so I'd like to play that for you tonight. Okay, since he cannot be with us at this moment only because he just had an operation, but he will otherwise he would have to play it himself. So let me go ahead and play that song for you. Okay. And this is something he wrote. This is the first time you're going to hear it for the public. Okay. That's, hopefully he'll play it himself in person next month after he has a speedy recovery from his operations. He just got back yesterday from the hospital. Okay, let's continue with the minutes, reading of the mission statements. Jim?
The mission of this club shall be to advance the principles and purposes of the Republican Party, to elect Republican candidates to public office, to strengthen the civic welfare of the community, and to engage in a vigorous exchange of ideas supporting Republican values. Amen.
Thanks. I'm going to do a quick roll call here. Some of them are not here tonight, but that's okay. Daniel Mayo, that's me here. David Abraham, Kathy Lally, Tzlil Levy, she's here. David Kemp, Isaiah Vega, it's going to be a bit late. Carol Crum, let's see, Sophia Worrell, James Watson, Martha Rowan, Arkadiusz Tomaszewski, Phil McManus, Juan Pagan, Zuri Tsao, Gerald Lally, Emily Zhang, Stephen Weiner, Jim Strawhorn, Phil Grillo, Stan Norwalk, Ruben Cruz, and let's see, Joe Solomon, Steve Spear, and Craig Tyson. Okay, now we're going to have basically a reading of the club's minutes. It's to be done by one of our speakers tonight, David Lee.
Minutes of the regular meeting of the Central Queens Republican Club held on July 16, 2026 at the Grace Lutheran Church, 10315 Union Turnpike, Forest Hills, Queens, 11375. The meeting was called to order 7:30 p.m. Julie Miller led the Pledge of Allegiance. Congratulations for your, primary. Jim Strawhorn read the mission statement, and Daniel Mayo did the roll call. Isaiah Vega read the minutes of the June 18, 2026 meeting. Work Arthur. Motion to adopt the minutes seconded by Anton Trentman. The minutes was adopted with one nay vote. Joel Solomon reported bank balance of $3,749.48 with 53 paying members. Board members in attendance were Isaiah Vega, Daniel Mayo, Craig Tyson, Ruben Cruz, Joel Solomon, and Jim Strawhorn. Absent were Stan Norwalk, Carol Crone, Martha Rowan, Sophia Worrell, Phil Grillo, Gerard Lawley, Kathy Lawley, Arkadiusz Tomaszewski, James Schwartzman, David Abraham, Tzlil Levy, David Kemp, Juan Pagan, Emily Zhang, Stephen Weiner, Catherine Donnelly, Zilly Cow, and Phil McManus. 15 members and 69 members were in attendance. Announcements, Martha Flores Vasquez. District Leader from Flushing 40th District Council Bradley, August 21st against human trafficking off Roosevelt Avenue on 40th Road. Ronald Heath reported that Project Civic uncovered 100,000 duplicate voter records and 25,000 were found in Queens. Its next bi-weekly meeting is July 23rd, focusing on precinct strategy. Daniel stated that the June 23rd primary election results were certified on July 14th, except for a few members, including Brooklyn's Republican primary for State Senate District 22. Also, a past board member, Arlene Ross, died on July 14th. Memorial service will be held at Fourth Brothers on Queens Boulevard on July 17th. Candidates, July Miller, who miraculously won her Democratic primary for a civil court judge, recommends to keep reaching out to moderate Democrats. She also announced that she has been cross-endorsed on the Republican line. Congratulations. David Bellin, running for municipal court judge in the 4th District, who also got the Republican nod, said he will be fair, consistent, and give everyone a chance. Larry Sharp,
who ran for governor on the Republican coalition lines, was with his daughter, Josephine. New York City has not elected Republicans statewide in 23 years, and Republican registration currently is at 23%. Kathy Hochul is not taking national state funds, either did Andrew Cuomo yet. Bruce Layton sued to get it. New York has a smaller population than Florida, but a budget that doubles Florida. 20 million people and $268.5 billion in New York versus 23.5 million people and 117.6 billion in Florida. Marty Dolan ran against AOC twice in Jamal Bowman explained his good Democratic thinking, protecting Social Security, unemployment insurance, and the state university system, which Republicans would say is obvious. Far left policies, however, create permanent dependency. Marty is for the Rainbow Coalition from West Village to Upper West Side to Manhattan Borough's office, but not for programs that just give out money without improving people's lives. He observed that Democrats made a bizarre turn to SHIT for the YouTube algorithm about 10 years ago. Socialism, Hamas illegality, and Trump derangement syndrome. He predicted AOC will be restricted out in 2032, and if Hochul wins, the government won't care about Mamdani. Jonathan McDowell was charged by the Queen's DA with social media fraud the morning after he lost his Democratic primary to Andrew Hevesy. The DA took his phone, and he is on weekly supervised release. He was shocked that the DA had every record of his social media presence and is fighting for his First Amendment rights, especially as a candidate who went on the first, who went on the November ballot. Who is on the November ballot, I guess, yeah, okay. Brandon Castro won about 40% of the votes, very respectable, against incumbent Stephen Raga in 2024 is running in an open seat against Patrick Martinez, the nephew of former party boss Joe Crowley. Brandon got endorsement from Bob Holden and Andrew Yang. Oh, I hate that guy, I'm sorry. I hate him so much. And is running on positive vision for four platform and four party lines, Republican, conservative, arts and culture, and reform. Ruben Cruz is running against David Orkin, a DSA candidate who ousted Jennifer Raj Kumar. He focuses on pothole trash, deep thefting, and $81,000 per year and $10 million homeless shelter. I like that, Ruben. All right. Pablo R. We're almost done, folks. A visiting German young union member won the 50-50 battle. He declined to take the winnings. Isaiah Day was awarded the winnings and donated to pay club membership for Julie Milner. Debbie Strawhorn, motion to adjourn the meeting, and was seconded by Joe Sullivan. The meeting ended at 9:38 p.m.
Are there any corrections or comments on the minutes?
We did a very good job on the last minute edition. Excellent.
I second that.
So I guess all in favor of adopting the minutes, that's right. It's aye. All those opposed? Any no's? I think the minutes has been adopted. Thank you very much, Ed. Let me go to a couple of announcements before we get to our speakers. On September 9th, the Queens Village Republican Club is holding a fundraiser for gubernatorial candidate Bruce Lakeland at the Oasis in Bayside. Its information is on our website. You're welcome to check that out, and also it'll be included in our regular email to you. Okay. Let's see. Other than that, anyone want to make some announcements? Okay, since we have the announcement section, let's open to anyone who is anything they like. Yes, Ronald, you want to make some announcements?
Real quick, as I said, as you heard in the minutes, I'm working with Project Civica, and one of the big projects that we're doing and the big pushes that we're doing is to get people involved at the grassroots level. There's a big project, the precinct project, to get precinct committeemen and committeewomen across the state. As people like Steve Gillen have said before at meetings, we have 60 state seats running unopposed. We do not have a candidate running in them, so we're trying to get people filled. We're trying to get the ball moving now for the next 2028 cycle. So if anyone wants to get involved, reach out to me so we can get precincts moving and communities mobilized for the next election cycle. Thank you.
All right, folks, check it out. Just so you know, on this Sunday, August 23rd, it's actually Black Ribbon Day, the commemoration of the victims of communism and other authoritarian governments. We're actually meeting at the Communist Party headquarters. Did you know their headquarters are here in New York City? They own the whole entire building. Yeah, it's hilarious. And then we're going to march to the People's Forum. And just so you know, we have all these workers. We got all these different candidates. We got people coming from out of town as far as Pennsylvania. Remember one time I mentioned about talking to a billionaire and getting our club funding? Right now, one of them is actually going to be participating with us, which is very cool. I got something I'm going to show. Check this out. I want you to show you. See it right here? It's a Coaches People Forum. You see what was that? Fox News. You said Fox News wrote me back? That's right, Fox News wasn't coming, folks. That's right. It's time for us to get on the big stage, folks. That's right. That's how it gets down. All right, folks. I got flyers on the back right there. Yeah, that's right. It's time for Central Queens Club to come up. I'm tired of being treated in last place. It's time for the Queens Republican Party. You need to bring this up. I'm telling you this up. You can come with us or without us. We're coming.
Any other announcements? Okay. I forgot to mention give you a financial report there. Sophia Warrella, treasurer's not in, so let me read the numbers here. Our current bank balance is $3,603.35. We have 53 members currently standing. We should have a couple of candidates that basically ran in the primary that will be joining us tonight. Just in case they're not, let me give you some quick updates that some of you are familiar with. In the case of Jonathan Rinaldi, as you know, the Queens DA has taken him to court, criminal court, okay, for fraud. And keep in mind, he is still on the November ballot, so this is the case of a candidate in Queens being taken to court over use of AI. It's the first time this basically a freedom of speech case is going before the courts in the state of New York. And he told me he had an appearance before the judge. Yes, this is one yesterday. Anyway, the judge says they cannot give him anyone to represent him. Even the legal aid society would not provide him legal aid, so he has to pay for his own expense unless he can prove that he is indignant against a poor person. So his next court date is to provide that he has not enough financial money to warrant a legal representation. Anyway, that's where he stands. Also, we were following the state Senate 22 race in Brooklyn, that Bernard Gazenberg against Carl Collar. Bernard should be in later tonight to explain the situation, even though that is a Republican primary to which there was a difference of 14 votes. It's going to the appellate court only because the Brooklyn Supreme Court decided, well, it's a little bit too late now to do anything about it, so they take it to the appellate court. It's also, this challenge is probably going to go before the federal court as well, because apparently the Brooklyn Board of Election was basically stonewalling some of the information they need, and some of the records were still missing. There was a lot of interesting vote discrepancies happening there. In the case of the Bronx Republican race, which is pretty interesting, you probably saw that in the email I sent out to you. Sherry Aligo against Maria Diaz in the 86th Assembly District. Maria Diaz won, but she is really a public candidate, and because she won, she says, I'm not on the ballot, I don't want to run. So the Republican candidate in 86 who is on the conservative line, who wants to run, who wants to win, and does not have a Republican line, but the candidate who does not want to run is on the ballot. Okay. I invited her to talk about her story of what happened to even the candidate that the Bronx County GOP put up. She's a Democrat who filed her registration to Republican after the deadline, which means by law it's an illegal voter registration change. Right. But it's basically been overlooked. The Board of Elections says it's too late. Yes, it is wrong, but it's too late. She's on the ballot, even though she's on the ballot illegally. Anyway, we also have an interesting lady who will hopefully be joining us, Yakima Harris, running in the 55th Assembly District in Kings County. She's running against, I don't know whether you know Latricia Walker. She's very much powerful Democratic, the Brooklyn, Kings County. Every race she ran, she won at least 90-some% of the votes. Yet, Yakima Harris is on the Republican line. Ms. Walker decided to knock her off on the Republican line. She got knocked off. Yakima tried to run on a third-party line, yet Ms. Walker knocked her off as well. Okay. I mean, there's no way that she can win, but yet, even on the independent line, she tried to knock her off and took her to court multiple times, even without following any objections. Okay. which you could do. Okay? You don't need to follow your insurance candidate, but you can still take them to court to knock them off, which is what you did. Anyway, hopefully we'll be able to share some of those stories here. Okay, if there's no other announcements, let's get to our main speaker, okay? Mr. Mark Axinn. He is he'll be introduced by Jim Stormont. So Jim, please.
Thank you, Danny. Mark, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Jim Strawhorn. I've been a member of this club for 5 years. I first came across Mark Axinn a few years ago when I was active in the Libertarian Party in Queens County. Okay, Mark was active in the Libertarian Party in Manhattan and also in the state organization, and I would run into him from time to time, and I always noticed that he was intelligent, thoughtful, and just an easy guy, okay? At this club's July board meeting, somehow we got into a wide-ranging discussion about things, real estate. And it went on for about 10 or 15 minutes, and we just went this way, that way, and the other way. And it occurred to me that somebody I knew a long time ago, Mark Axinn here, might be willing to come out and talk to us. Mark has been a real estate attorney. He's represented co-ops and condos and other kinds of entities over and over again. And I think it's fair to say that nobody in New York City knows more about New York City real estate law than Mark Axinn does. He's the real thing, and I just want to check my notes and see. I made some lists of points I wanted to make, and I think I covered most of it. So would you all please join me in giving a big welcome to Mark Axinn.
Thank you, Thank you, Good. I'm gonna. No, I don't need to use this, but I am going to sit down over here. I apologize, my back is to you, because really, while I have a couple of thoughts about what we should discuss, and I'll chat for a few minutes, but I very much want to open it up more to a discussion among all of us, and we'll go from there. By way of background, I'll give you both political and professional. So politically, I did once vote for a Democrat or a Republican. It was Jimmy Carter in '76. I was only 20 years old, so I didn't really know better at that point. I've been independent since then. I support liberty. I support freedom. I support the same things and the same values that I believe all of you do as well. And I've been pretty active over the last 30 years. I was the New York State chairman of the Libertarian Party for 5 years, from 2010 to 2015. And we went through all the same things that I just heard Daniel talking about. You know, people trying to knock you off the ballot, and the T's aren't crossed and the I's aren't dotted, and they do whatever they can. And the New York State election law is a nightmare. And it got even worse during COVID because Cuomo didn't like the Working Party's family who failed to endorse him and endorsed Cynthia Nixon that year. They went even more communist than Cuomo would have been. And as a consequence, that he tripled the required signatures. He made it that much more difficult for independents. He made it that much more difficult for Republicans. He made it that much more difficult for anybody except the entrenched powers. So I've been trying to fight against the entrenched powers all my life, but particularly then. I was born in Queens County. I was born in Glen Oaks at Long Island Jewish. Grew up on Long Island, went to school in Manhattan. I've been a lawyer, I know I don't look it, but I've been a lawyer for 45 years. Mostly representing either property owners, developers, who sometimes convert buildings to co-ops, lots of red brick buildings in Brooklyn and Queens, or representing, since 1991 or so, representing a lot of co-op corporations, co-op and condominium associations. And I have more in Queens County than any other that I represent. I've got buildings in Sunnyside, Regal Park, Kew Gardens, Elmhurst, Jackson Heights, on the south in Howard Beach, Lindenwood area, several in that area. This is my home too. Even though I've lived in Manhattan for the last 50 years, I consider Queens County very much my home. So I'm going to start more from a basic philosophical basis,
and then we'll apply it to how it works with rent control and things like that. So, you know, I'm looking at Henry Hazlitt's Economics in One Lesson, with which I assume most of you are familiar. So Hazlitt was a writer. He wrote for Newsweek for many years. He was at FEE, Foundation for Economic Education, his basic economics in one lesson. The lesson is this: is that most policies are adapted for a purpose. We have a reason why we adapt them. Like, you know, we want to have more housing for poor people, whatever the reason is. But if you really want to do economics the right way, then you need to not just consider that which is seen, but you have to consider that which is not seen. And that goes back to Bastiat's theory of the broken window. You know, the broken window, yeah, created jobs, but for fixing windows, but that same money could have been spent on bakers buying goods from the baker or doing other things. So if you look at an economic policy with blinders, and you only look at what that one policy is, and you don't consider other consequences, unintended consequences, or it's designed to help, you know, people who have this particular issue, but you don't look at how it affects people who don't have that issue, then you're not really doing economics the right way. And that's actually the way that our government works. And rent control, because I know we're going to talk about housing, and we're going to keep it mostly and rent control, for example, is a specific special type of a price control. You know, going back to what we just said in politics, the Libertarian Party was formed in response to Nixon's wage and price controls. I mean, the government controlling the marketplace never works. You know, I mean, we had, you know, the Soviet Union controlled the marketplace there for decades. How well did that work out for the people? So rent control, the same thing. So you have rent control as a theory to protect, you know, that people who can't afford housing. But really what you're doing is you're protecting the tenants in place, the people who are in place. You're not even really protecting them because they're now locked into their apartments because their market rent, their rent is so much less than market. But you're harming, for example, the people who are moving from New Jersey here who look for housing, but of course there's much less housing available because 900,000 apartments are rent stabilized. Or you're discouraging landlords and property owners from remodeling and spending money fixing their property because you're controlling what their rents are. And this has been a problem in New York for decades. This is not just our current mayor. Our current mayor obviously is ratcheting it up, but you know, we've had rent control. We had rent control laws in New York City after World War I. We had rent control laws after World War II. The Rent Stabilization Act came in '73 and is still in effect on 900,000 units. So, I mean, there's no question that rent control, or the idea of controlling what a property owner can get and messing up the free market there is going to have a deleterious effect on people who buy. Now, it's gotten worse because we don't just have rent control and nothing else. We have 10 million local laws. We have 10 million regulations that a property owner has to comply with. And property owners could be, in my case, they could be co-op buildings in East Elmhurst or Northern Boulevard or something that, you know, are made up in middle-class buildings. We're not talking about, you know, I know the mayor thinks that the people who own co-ops and condos are all billionaires, but believe it or not, there are people who own lots of, you know, $600,000 apartments. So for all these local laws, Local Law 11. Local Law 11, okay, so Local Law 11 used to be called Local Law 10. So there was a student at Barnard in 1980 who got hit. In fact, I knew her sister because she was in my class at Columbia in '78. Got hit by a piece of cornice that broke off at 111th and Broadway and obviously killed her. This is a terrible thing that happened. So of course, the city passes a law, all these buildings the facades have to be inspected. And over time, like any law, you know, the income tax was only going to be 3%. It was only going to affect the top, like 0.01% of people. So like any other law, over time, it expanded. Now you have to inspect everywhere. And how many buildings have you seen with sidewalk bridging and scaffolding up? Well, that stuff costs hundreds of thousands of dollars. I've got co-ops in Queens that have spent $1 million just to comply with local law 11, and it's every 5 years. It's every 5 years. Now, theoretically, if you've done all the work and hopefully it lasts for more than 5 years, so the next cycle you won't have to spend as much. But it's become a whole cottage industry just for people to do it. Now we have another local law about emissions and how much carbon emissions are coming out. And there's another, I mean, there's actually thousands of local laws. It's just these are the ones that are known best. So my notes are pretty tiny. We have lots and lots of taxes. We have a tax scheme. Co-ops are taxed. Co-ops and condos are taxed like rental buildings. But they don't run like rental buildings. You can't run them at a profit. You're supposed to break even in a co-op. You're supposed to raise enough money to pay your bills. But they're taxed like that. So what does the government do? I mean, Harry Brown, who was a candidate, a libertarian national candidate in the 90s, used to say, what the government does is they like to break your legs and then give you a crutch and make a big deal out of the crutch. So same thing, with the co-op condo abatement, what they do, because some of you probably own co-ops or condominiums in Queens, right? What they do is they give you this higher tax. They tax you like in class 2, multiple dwellings or tax in class 2. They give you this higher real estate tax, but then they give you back an abatement. But the abatement is a portion. It's not nearly as much. So a private one-family house in Queens County that's worth $600,000 pays significantly less tax than a co-op apartment that's worth $600,000. But the co-op apartment is somebody's home, but it isn't treated that way under the New York City tax laws. And I mean, there's so many of these. You can go on and on and on. I mean, the latest cause célèbre, of course, is the pied-à-terre tax. So what is going on there? It's not just taxing billionaires, it's taxing people who are investing in property in New York City, buying property in New York City, and using it occasionally. I have one client who actually owns a condo. She rents it out, but she rents it out to a limited liability company, LLC. And the LLC puts different executives in the company. They use it for like 3 months at a time. That means it's not somebody's primary residence. Whammo, she just got hit with a $40,000 bill. She signed a lease 2 years ago with a renewal option, so it's subject to this, so she can't get out of the lease that she signed, but she's got to now pay $40,000 because nobody is using it as a primary residence. She rented out in a condominium apartment that she owns. Subject. I even know one family that got hit with, got a tax bill. They're renovating their apartment, so they're not living in it. They're living someplace else. So it's not doing. I mentioned the co-op condo abatement before. My building that I live in, I'm the treasurer of my building, tiny little co-op. We only have eight apartments, but it's a townhouse on 78th Street in the city. So my building had, somebody's phone is ringing, but not mine. It's ringing in this thing. So my building had we applied, and they said, I have to fill out an affidavit that we're paying prevailing wage to our employees. That's a New York City law, right? And otherwise, New York City to penalize us because they want to make sure everybody gets paid prevailing wage. And look at what I said about Hazlitt, you'll look at that consequence, or what's the unintended consequence? My building has 0 employees. We don't have any employees. We have 8 people in the building. We take out our own trash, we do our own recycling, etc. I filled out the form. I sent it. The city lost it. They denied my tax abatement. It took 1.5 years and was a $30,000 tax abatement for my building. And because I'm a lawyer, I afford it, and I did it. I mean, the stories go on and on and on. My point is this, is that there's myriad laws in New York. They all have a purpose. They all had a reason. There's there's a reason we drive on the right side. There's a reason that the speed limit is not 90 miles an hour on Northern Boulevard. There's a reason for these laws, but they've ratcheted it up so much and they've taken it to such an extreme. And look how it's hurting us. And particularly in the housing, because in New York City, real estate is like the sexy topic. Other places, they talk about sports and cars. We talk about real estate here. So, you know, in New York City, real estate is something that affects all of us because housing, because we're an island city, we have very little space, we have a lot of people, housing is a real issue here. So I'm sure that, I mean, I could tell war stories, but I think better would be to talk about specific applications and how it's affecting different people who live here. So I'm going to open it up for anything that people want to chat about. And I don't know how long we have, but you sang so well, so you get the first question.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's
So,
a pleasure
hello,
to hear you.
everybody. I'm Cristina Fontinelli, and I'm a singing politician. I'm a new politician. So so thank you so much. It's fascinating to hear you. And one of my major pressing things, representing the people, possibly, I'm running for office actually where the communist rally is, anti-com, that's my district. The big topic is the NYCHA buildings. Are you familiar with those?
New York City Housing Authority?
Yes.
Right, so
Now-
they're building them all over, so.
But they want to demolish, like, it's very debatable if they should be demolished or not. Is that not your expertise?
Well, it's not my field of expertise, but,
Yeah, no,
but we
that's
could,
okay.
but we could talk about it. I mean, so should New York City be in the landlord business to begin with? So New York City and I think the Catholic Church are the two biggest landlords in the city of New York, and the Catholic Church are the two biggest landlords in the city right now. So from a moral or ethical point of view, should the city be owning property? I mean, there's a tremendous amount of HFDCs, Housing Fund Development Corporations. HFDCs worked because in the 70s, a lot of landlords went bankrupt because they couldn't even afford to pay the real estate taxes. They were so heinous, and they couldn't afford to pay the taxes. So the city took back the building and sold it to the tenants for a dime, and with a mortgage, subject to a mortgage, and the mortgage was the back taxes that were owed to the city, so the city would get paid its back taxes. So the city owns a lot of property that way. Then, of course, they knock down housing and they build these lovely, beautiful buildings that I'm sure we all want to move into, which you just alluded to, and they're terrible. I mean, they actually have more violations per apartment or per square foot or whatever than private stock does. They have tons of violations, they have tons of issues, they're in very poor repair, but they're providing housing for indigent people, which is a good thing because we should take care of the poor. The question is, should we be forced to take care of the poor with our tax dollars, or should you be able to contribute to the Salvation Army or the American Red Cross or whatever you want to help people who are down and out. So the NYCHA housing or any of this other housing is all basically, I think the real evil with all of that, again, is it was built for a purpose with tunnel vision, but that purpose neglects everything else, and the city is a terrible landlord. They're very bad at adhering to their own stupid rules. Okay. Next question.
Before we get to that, we do have three other landlord-related speakers here. We want to talk about their stories, and then we could basically talk to them, continue.
Should we? So do you not want to have anybody else talk?
There will be Q&A for all of you. That's what I'm trying to do there. Okay, so there's three other.
Okay, however you want.
Stay there, don't move.
You're good.
Next one is also a landlord in this district. She want to basically bring up some of the concerns there, Levy.
Hi everyone. Mark, thank you for starting us out on the topic of housing because people don't really realize the amount of local laws that we have, and it affects everybody because once it affects the landlords, it also affects the tenants. And local laws cost money, they're not free. So, for instance, when you have local law 1 regarding lead paint, and the city comes into the apartment and starts checking for lead, they start checking every single piece of paint. That means ceilings, walls, doorposts, hinges, everything, hallways, baseboards. And once they start, it doesn't finish. They start sending you violations. You have a limited time to correct them. They fine you per day, and depending on how they feel, either it's 500 a day or whatever it is. And on top of that, the tenants need to provide access for you to comply, and it's very difficult if you're having children or if they have people over to do these types of work practices, because you have to do it safely. And at the same time, while you're being fined, you have to hire a company that will come and do it for you. And after COVID, with everything that's been going on in the economy, everything became super expensive. So now they're saying, oh, if the child lives here, that means that it came from the apartment. But they don't take into account, maybe it came from the schools, because all our schools are infested with lead and all these bad things, but they don't take that into account. Like if you go into the public schools, it's all lead paint. But they don't have these rules for them, because the government doesn't care about themselves. They just care about coming to the private owners and grabbing as much money as they can. They don't really care about the kids who live in the apartment, because if they did, why are they fining the landlord? Why are they not giving a chance for that to be rectified? And the immediate thing that they do is they give a fine. So not only that, some tenants know about this, and they like to do that because they're like, hey, I'm bored, I'm not working, let me call 311 and let me just complain. And all of a sudden, the apartment is the worst apartment they've ever lived in. But why did you take it to begin with if it's so bad? So a lot of tenants abuse the 311 system against the landlords when it comes to these local laws and these violations and repairs. Because when you're renting an apartment or if you're going to buy a house, obviously you're going to check for basic things, that things are working, it looks good to you, you're putting down a deposit, you want to live in a comfortable environment. And all of a sudden, everything is bad. Like the doors are broken, the windows don't open, the sink is moving, all these things that are happening in apartments. And the first thing the city does is they send out an inspector, they give you a time to correct it. Some are class A, B, and C, depending on the severity of the violation, and the fines begin, especially when it comes to heat and hot water. So if the landlord, for instance, has a problem with the boiler and it's winter time, you have to hire a plumber to come and fix it. Now, sometimes there's backlogs, there's different things going on, they can't come right away. There's Christmas time, the plumbing stores are closed. All these situations that arise, the city doesn't care. They send out an inspector and they start charging you fines. And all of a sudden, they send you a bill and they send you a court case, and before you know it, you owe $100,000 in heat fines, even though you corrected it and it's fixed. But they don't know, they're billing you. Now you have to go fight in court. And it's ridiculous how the system is working not for the tenants or the landlords or New Yorkers. It's working against everybody who's in this room. Because at the end of the day, when you're coming after landlords per se, you're coming after everybody who needs an apartment. Right now, studies show that over 57,000 rent-stabilized apartments are vacant. Now, the numbers are probably much, much higher. These are just what's reported. Imagine what's not reported. And imagine how many apartments or houses are vacant that are not rent-stabilized. So the numbers are way, way higher. We don't have a housing shortage problem. We have a housing crisis because of the government and the laws that they pass to come after people, to come after money.
Very good. I will add one point to that. I don't need this. I'll add one point to that, and that is that sometimes the complaints are really fictitious. So everybody heard about this company called Pinnacle Realty. So I actually represented the owner of that company for like 40 years or so. So I know them very well. And although I didn't represent him with respect to the 4,000 apartments that were foreclosed on. But there was a tenants group organized against him, and they filed complaints that the elevator wasn't working. He had a camera, because there's a drop ceiling, of course there's a camera. He had a camera, and the president of the tenants group was putting crazy glue in the buttons on the elevator. Yeah, I have a client once had a tenant, her name was Mrs. Best. She should have been named Mrs. Worst. She poured cement down the sink and then said the sink was stopped up.
The same situation. A tenant
This happens all the
took
time.
bed insulation and put it in the sewer, so the sewer was always clogged.
Why do they do that?
So once you clog the sewer, she has all these problems in her apartment. She cannot flush, she cannot use the water, everything is flooding everywhere. She's calling the city, she's making drama. The police are
She's
coming.
going to get free rent, she's going to get money back.
She thinks she's gonna go and get free rent, even though she's Section 8. Now you have to go and break the sidewalk and bring a plumbing company because you have to repair the sewer. Because why? Because she's sitting home and not working and she's bored. And a lot of it is because people are sitting home, not working, and not taking responsibility for their housing. Because why do people work? End of the day, why do we go to work? To pay for our living, to pay for our housing. Because we don't go to work because we're bored or we don't have anything to do. We go to work because we have to pay for our bills. But people who get government funding, subsidies, they don't have that responsibility. And now President Trump changed that because now he's saying if you're getting Section 8 or if you're getting any voucher, you have to do at least 20 hours of anything. Community service, working, whatever you do, you have to put 20 hours. It's not a 40-hour work week, it's a 20-hour. So choose your days, choose what you want to do, but you have to do something. Because sitting at home creates problems. Like, they're not taking responsibility, they're fighting with the neighbors, now all of a sudden, you have people sitting on the stoop, smoking, drinking, weed is legal now in New York City. So a lot of things are happening.
It's a culture of dependency, which we see in many, many areas, not just in housing. The gentleman in green shirt has had his hand up for a while.
Sir, I wanted to know, it never made sense to me, both of you bring this point up. What is the purpose of the landlord management for not renting out those rent stabilized apartments? Don't they just lose revenue if there's nobody in there? What is, she mentioned it.
Okay.
I'll tell you what.
Okay, you give the answer, and then I'm going to give you an even more, a different answer.
Okay.
I know.
A lot of these apartments are older, so they need to be renovated. The electric is old, it can cause sparks and fires. The appliances need to be repaired or replaced. A lot of the floor is sagging, the tiles are very old, the bathrooms, the toilets, everything needs repair. So the smartest thing to do is to gut renovate the apartment. Now, Bill de Blasio changed the law when he said in the DHCR rules that if you do any repairs, you're not going to get the amount of money that you put in like before. So now it's regulated to 1 out of 89%, right?
It used to be 1/40th or something too, because I remember that you used to get have to amortize it over 40 months or something, that you could increase the rent. But one main reason is from the landlord position, and it's much more difficult now after de Blasio and also after the Tenant Protection Act of 2019. So all of this predates our current mayor, is that landlords in general want to get the apartments out of the stabilization world. They want them destabilized. So, for example, one thing that a lot of my clients did in the late 1980s and early 90s was we converted buildings to co-ops. And then we declared it effective on 17%, 19%, 21%. In the TPA in 2019, they changed it. Now it's going to be 51%, which is much harder to get 51% of the tenants. But we used to go co-op on 19, 20, 21%. And then when apartments became vacant, do a reno, and now you can rent it out at market rate. That law has changed, but that was a real good reason why a lot of people were holding on to the stabilized apartments. But now let's look at the bigger picture. It's an evil system. If we didn't have rent stabilization, if we didn't have the government trying to mess with market forces, landlords would have been fixing up their apartments and renting them out right away.
Like there's so many students who want apartments, there's so many elderly people, people who are getting married, young couples. So many people want to move into apartments and they want affordable places to live. They don't mind to live in a big building with lots of people. They want to, and they're not able to because a lot of these people are not moving out. The people who are living in 3 bedrooms, there's like one person living in a 800 square foot apartment, which is ridiculous. You have people who are in the newer generation, 6 people living in a 1 bedroom apartment. The entire system is is so off, it's not balanced properly. Because we're not getting the proper ways to rent them out. And as a landlord, when you want to rent out an apartment, you want to bring a nice family to the neighborhood. Because at the end of the day, the neighbors are the ones who are contributing to society.
And you want somebody who's going to keep your apartment building well and make it attractive so that you can get more people like that and rent them out. I mean, it's beneficial both in a social point and it's beneficial economically.
Okay, like you were mentioning, like every 5 years they gotta do something, the landlord.
That's the facade law, local law 11.
Okay, now, the buildings that have certain amount of co-op owners and still have a significant amount of renters, the stabilized renters, significant amount, the stabilized renters don't pay anything for these?
No, they pay rent. So here's what happens. You shouldn't go by who occupies the apartment. Go by who owns the apartment. So the landlord, could be a holder of unsold shares, sponsor developer, he is paying maintenance to the co-op on his unsold apartments and collecting rent. So if the building needs to do a special assessment, you assess shareholders. And the landlords cannot pass that assessment through to their tenants who are stabilized. They might be able to do it with free market, because free market, it depends on whatever the lease says.
But even free market is regulated now, because
Right.
now we have good cause eviction. So with good cause eviction, now also the free market is regulated.
That's even worse. That's a whole new subject.
Yes.
I'm glad you raised it.
These are all socialist policies.
Oh, let me go ahead and introduce Melvin Rivera, who's running for Congress in the 7th District,
Ah.
where maybe the last place I asked this first. He wants to share his experiences basically on Casa Pasiva in Brooklyn.
Why don't you chat for a few minutes? Tell us a few
Sure.
things.
So, my name is Melvin Rivera. I'm running for Congressional District 7, as Eddie Mayo said. I'm a housing activist, just like Ed Lee here, who's running for State Assembly, District 36. And in my experience with Casa Pasiva, Mark, we were at HDFC. That was purposely ran into foreclosure by our management company. And then in a short-arm transaction between the city of New York and this management company, they said, hey, you did such a great job running this building into the ground. How would you like to own them? And then they went and sold these buildings, 16-unit buildings, 32 units, at $200,000, a fraction of its cost.
For nothing.
And these buildings went through the third-party transfer in 2019. There was an article written by Michael Gartland. He's the chief editor of Political Now, but he wrote this for the Daily News at the time, mentioning Casa Pasiva specifically, Riseboro specifically, in the third-party transfer. So what's been happening is that these corporations and housing building management companies, such as you have, Riseboro, Los Sudes, St. Nick's Alliance, they contribute so much money to these Democratic politicians. So I'm alleging that the mayor's office has been responsible for this, and I'm not saying a mayor in particular. I'm alleging this as Letitia James was the public advocate. They have been targeting HDFCs, the New York City pension, because they want to get 9.5% return on their investments, and they have been disenfranchising the community, the very fabric of our community, and pushing us out through gentrification, raising prices. Not allowing us to be owners through the HDFC 7A administration process, and giving these buildings back to these bad actors, right? Because the mayor's office has an office to protect tenants, but they're really protecting these bad actors, and keeping us in a perpetual state, as you were stating, to be renters for our entire lives. And this is why I support TOPA, the Tenants Opportunity to Purchase Act, because I believe that the only way to true sustainability and affordability is through home equity, and this way we have roots, but we're being uprooted and pushed out. And I believe that it's a scheme devised by the Democratic Party. And what I've seen across the nation is that there's been an influx. We're being pushed out from New York, we're being pushed out from California, and we're being pushed out into the South, the Midwest. And because of supply and demand, the demand is high, that the supply is low, there's a housing crisis all over America, and now that bubble is about to crash. So, I just wanted to put my 2 cents on that and let you know about my experience.
It's terrific. What do you believe is the solution to that problem?
TOPA. So, I strongly, like I mentioned, I strongly believe that's the only way to sustainability, affordability, to building generational wealth. But I also strongly believe that when we have more homeowners paying into property tax, right, that the taxes will decrease, and that hasn't happened since Ronald Reagan was president.
So, is there much support for TOPA? TOPA is the tenant's opportunity to purchase.
That's correct.
Right, okay, so what kind of support is there for it, and what kind of opposition is there to it?
There's a lot of support, but but there's a lot of opposition too, because they introduced TOPA, then they walked it back, and what they reintroduced was COPA, the Community Opportunity to Purchase Act. And to me, COPA is the third-party transfer on steroids. It's the same vehicle that benefits bad actors, right? Companies like Riseboro, like Los Sudes, like St. Nick's, like you have. And if you notice, many of the people on Zora Mandani's teams are from UHAB. He scrapped all of Mayor Adams' previous policies, but he kept the City of Yes. And then when we voted for the City of Yes, they didn't tell us what it was for. The City of Yes, yes, it's more apartments, but it's more apartments at $4,000 studios. That's not affordable. So when people like Mandani say affordable, I cringe because his definition of affordable is not the same as mine. Here I am stretching my lunch to dinner just to make it through the week. And here he is having, T-bone steaks at Peter Luca. So it's a difference in affordability. A $4,000 studio on Housing Connect is not affordable.
Well, our mayor is disingenuous in a lot of things. He pretends to be a man of the people and a man from the streets. His father is a professor at Columbia. He grew up in Morningside Heights. I lived in Morningside Heights for 15 years, so I'm not going to badmouth the neighborhood. It got much better during the 80s while I was there, 70s and 80s. But he's hardly what he projects himself to be. But I think you raise another bigger good point, which is the government will give us this facade that they are doing something to help the people. And especially coming out with what on its face makes sense, letting people have an opportunity to have an investment in the property where they're living. Well, that would be good if they want to buy it, and they can then have money down and they'll care about it. That's a positive. But you just said they already rolled it back. They've already turned it into a different act. Whether it's that particular law or one of the local laws, which are like beyond belief.
Oh, Local Law 97 is terrible.
Yeah, right? What they're doing is they come out with something which on its face looks like, yeah, you know what? We shouldn't have too much pollution. Or we shouldn't have lots of lead that kids are going to eat the lead paint. But we should, on its face, it looks like it's a good law, but look at the implementation. Look what they do. And it's unfortunate, but time after time they do this.
Yeah, the key word is implementation. Because it's fine to say we don't want lead paint. It's okay to say we want clean air. But the other aspect of it is to take the landlord and start doing emergency repairs with HPD, relocation for tenants, putting it in the taxes, not billing you properly, not even giving you the opportunity to fix the problem, and just making you lose your property. And not only that, be responsible for the payment even after you lose the property. So the whole situation of implementing it is terrible. And that's why landlords today are very cautious who they put into their buildings, their houses, their apartments. It's much, much more difficult now, especially when you go to court and the first thing they say is, do you need a free lawyer? Go over there. Now they get free lawyers. Who's paying for it?
Can I talk about that? Free lawyers?
Do you need an adjournment? In Texas, if you need an adjournment, they say, okay, come back tomorrow. In New York, they say, okay, you come back in November.
I want to talk about free lawyers, right? Because this is a universal policy. And there's a law. It's called Universal, UATC.
Right.
Universal Rights to Counsel. Right? So, Universal Access to Counsel, the UATC. Right? So, basically, if you're in housing court, you have the right to a lawyer. But, this is the caveat. There's an income requirement. There's always income requirements. And when we talk about universal, it's with all these policies. So in order to qualify for any of these things, we're talking about Medicaid, we're talking about housing, we're talking about attorneys. You have to be under 200% the national poverty line. right? And that's for an adult, that's $7,000 a year, something like that. It's ridiculous. So the DSA, yeah, they have universal policies, but in their idea of building of equality, right, is tearing people down. They want people to have nothing, and now we're equal because you don't have anything. And I say this all the time. They're like reverse Oprah. You don't get anything. You don't get anything. You don't get anything, right? And then nobody gets anything. So then now we're equal.
It's back to your
And so bringing it back to TOPA, we're building equity. We're building people up. We're giving them the skills, the tools. You know, we just went on a rent freeze for 1,000 units. 1 million units. But are these families being connected to financial literacy programs? Are they building and repairing their credit? What are they doing in the meantime? They're keeping us in a perpetual state of slavery so that we could come back with our hands open like, hey, help us again, when we need to be tapping into ourselves. You mentioned something, I'm sorry, can you tell me your name? Because it's hard for me. Tzlil, thank you. And you mentioned the $500 a day fines. That's extortion. And in Congress, I'm gonna get rid of that. All right? That's extortion. Do not let that happen.
Where's your district that you run?
District 7, so that's Queens and Brooklyn. It's from Astoria all the way down to Montague Street. My website is melvinforcongress.com. You can reach me there. You can find out more about me there as well.
Fantastic.
Let me introduce meantime another candidate. There's basically he's running a 36 Assembly district. That is the ex-Mamdani's district in Carolina City. Okay, he's a Republican candidate. He's going to tell you about his housing stories. And then after that, I'm going to have also Cristina joining us to talk about your stories too. Go ahead.
I'm going to touch on a couple things that the other people said up here. First of all, I was a professional lead inspector for the city. And just so you know, they passed the lead law in the 70s saying that it's illegal to have, they're trying to pull the lead out of the paint. But the fact of the matter is that, like, I would test people's homes, and you know what? 30% of all tested water in New York City has lead in it due to the pipes. So the thing is that there's a lot of real issues that are going on that are just not being mentioned, only because the law is ending at the end of the 50 years that they have to have reporting permits of why this lead stuff is happening and why they care. Otherwise, they would just let it go on forever. They don't really care. Okay. Another thing that I want to talk about right now is the first thing on my platform, if you go to licgop.com, is talking about COPA. Community Option Purchase Act. I want to shout out my guy Fiocchino. The thing is that a not-for-profit came and bought his building. They took out huge loans on his building. And actually, this is my guy right here that's going to be taking on COPA because Riseboro is the largest landlord in the side of Bushwick, and also they came out of the Bushwick Senior Center, which was known, if you look it up, they were known for corrupt behaviors, and they did a rebrand. But it's still Riseboro, and they still taking care of the seniors, are most vulnerable, and what they're really doing is they're cashing out on the people that are they're exploiting the poor. They're not helping them. Yeah, let's see that truth. Just so you know, before we mentioned about Legal Aid Society, I've done an exploration on Legal Aid Society. Guess who the funders are? It's all the real estate companies. So you go in there trying to get help, but the other side is going to pay for the legal help. You must be dreaming. Okay, so we're funding a lot of stuff that's actually weaponized against us. Now, I want to give a big shout out to Project Civica, because Project Civica is actually so important. I have a question for Mark right there. I've been trying to get this. I went to the Peter Tier Max meeting. I met Peter Tier Max tax meeting at City Hall. And the thing is that honestly, a lot of people in public housing, might skew Democrat, but people in co-ops and condos, owners, might skew Republican. But it's very hard to get into the apartments and talk to these people. I tried calling the co-op board of New York, or some kind of like organization like that. I tried calling the housing HOAs. What are they called again?
Well, there's the co-op condo abuse, homeowner, yeah,
How can I
which
get
is,
in
yeah.
contact with people? I want to get in contact with people, and that's why I think why today's event is so powerful for candidates like myself.
Yeah.
Because I can send this out to co-op and condo owners and say, you know what, this is your chance because this mayor has a special desire to hurt property owners, from requiring landlords to pay credit checks to it's just a nonstop parade.
And property owners are not just big landlords or not just big companies. They're either small landlords or they could just be people who own a co-op, people who own a condo. But
So a lot of condo and co-ops are
yeah,
like
so there are a couple of organizations. If you'll give me your contact info and I'll send it to you, the names of people.
I'm dying.
Yeah, sure, that's easy.
This guy needs it too. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
We need that. That's going to
Yeah.
give us a big edge as in terms of getting into the building where the Democrats can't get into. Yeah, we need that access. It's time for us to win. Shout out to Project Civica. block by block, we take it over. All right, let's go on to the next one right here. Now, the thing is that I've actually been an activist for over 30 years, and actually, I was there during the Red Pact era when Obama, a lot of times, right, the opposite party does the things that we want, right? But they know that they can, like, Trump spent a whole bunch of money. I think that he's actually done quantitative easing again, right? But we're gonna let it go because he's, on our side. Sometimes this kind of phenomenon happens. Now the thing is that during the Red Pact era, or during Obama, they said they're gonna end public housing as we know it. We're gonna be one of the few developed countries in this world, in the world that does not have public housing. Politically, it's very hard to achieve, right? The thing is that we have elderly people living there, disabled veterans living there. How do they make this happen? Does anybody know?
You just change the name. You
Okay.
just change what you call it.
The thing what they had, the way they said they couldn't pay for the thing because they said the repairs. Notice that also during the Obama era, remember when they were running those TV ads about these minorities and it was a chance to own their own home? They're like, oh, I'm going to use this money to repair my roof. It's the same type of scheme set up, right? The way they politically passed it because they said that the people who was living there would get to own their home. So if I'm in a public housing facility, right? The person across the street, they own a brownstone. That brownstone is now worth $1 million. Don't I get to also profit from ownership of if I get to own the building? So the thing is that we're supposed to give the people who's living there, TOPA, the tenants an opportunity to purchase. And this is a pure Republican ideal, self-reliance, self-ownership. This is a big chance for the Republicans to win, but unfortunately, they're not really paying attention. Now the thing is, they're really not. How many people live in public housing? About 500,000.
But how many of those people want to be owners?
I'm about to get to that, right? That's a
Not
great.
so many, yeah.
You get this. You're smart. We're
They're
going to talk about that in a
happy
moment.
to be.
Well, it depends on what they have to gain because they've been lied to for so long. That's a great. We're going to talk about that in a moment. Let's take a look at ethnic breakdown. What's the largest minority in New York City? Black people, about 2 million people. What's the second largest? Jews, about 1.6. What's the number of? Then we have I think Chinese, about 400,000, right? Yeah. We take like people in public housing. They're very sizable minorities. If they team up with any other minority group, they could be very, very powerful. However, you're absolutely right, okay? I wrote the longest long country in New York City history disabled, a lot of powerful groups that can help to dehinge the DSA narrative, right? They say, oh, DSA, we care about you, and I'm like, oh, look at me. Yeah, I look at all you people, I can say DSA is full of crap, and Republicans is the way to go. Because they'll never win. But you're absolutely right, my whole entire coalition, public housing is in last place. You're absolutely right. They're the least reliable. The people in Fulham, Chelsea are facing imminent eviction. They've lost their race by the widest margin out of the entire city council races. So you're right. They do not vote. You know why? Because the safety net becomes a trap. That's what something that Republicans know. They became reliance. Someone's going to save me. Someone's going to. No, they're not. Wake up. And they're about to get what they deserve. But as Republicans, we are not doing our job. DSA's out there hustling on the streets, and we're out here talking to one another. Shut up. Shut up and take over your block and start thinking about how to win. I don't care about any of this. Oh, it's right for me. Oh, shut up. It's time to win, or you could lose and get nothing and starve. Yeah? By the way, I'm going to give you. Okay, yeah. Take.
No, go ahead. Finish up, brother.
All right. So look, right now I'm saying something. I say this last because honestly, a lot of y'all are going to start dismissing me at this point. I'm homeless. I don't care. And Daniel Mayo helped me get on the ballot. He say try to kick me off a homeless man off the ballot. I don't care. Look, I'm being a DJ. I work with the rich, and don't feel bad for me. I'm loving it. Okay. I work with a guy. There's a guy named Oppenheimer. I'm friends with billionaires too because DJs hang out with the poor and the rich. And you know what he does? He goes out to Mongolia for like years on end to go and hang out with people living on the steppes. And they hang out with me because they know they like the way that my lifestyle. It's about a state of mind. I don't need everybody else has a break. I'll sleep once, I don't care. Come join me, I stay in shape. Well, let's go. You know what I mean? I'm ready. You can't stop me. It's a state of mind. Yeah, so a lot of billionaires out there want to live the nomadic lifestyle. They be doing that. They do band life, stuff like that. Hey, I'm ready to go. So stop letting a lot of people have their biases, and they think that, I need this to be happy. No, you don't. You know what you need to be happy, you need to win. That's what you need to be happy. That's mine. Okay. I'll pass to my guy right here. Go ahead.
I lost my train of thought, but if anybody has a
Why don't we open it up to somebody else
Yeah, we'll
to
go
chat?
out to the floor now, but first let me go ahead and introduce one of our candidates who's saying this evening, Cristina Fontinelli. She's running in the State Assembly 75th District, which is the Upper East Side. Okay.
No, it's not. It's, can we give these out for
Yeah, I'll pass it out for you.
Yeah, thank
You
you.
are-
It's not the upper. Yeah, thank you. Should I come up here and?
Where's
You know,
your?
I'm actually so impressed tonight because, I mean, I'm kind of new at this and I've been a singer and on TV and everything for so many years, my whole career. And then I got a calling, when my city council person, who's now an anointed, I call anointed because they don't run, nobody runs this, and he's a state senator. And last fall, he scheduled a paper shredding garbage event on 9/11. And I saw that on Facebook and I said, how on this solemn day, how do you schedule something like this? And I jumped in as a write-in candidate for the city council. And then I did pretty well, actually, they say. Even with a long Italian name, they had to write my name on the ballot. And one man said he never voted for anyone in his life because he never trusted anyone and he voted for me. And I seem to have an affinity for running for office, I don't know. But I'm really impressed by you tonight. I really, truly am impressed by this meeting. Because I go to, do you mind, I'm standing up, I was driving from New York City. I'm running for the New York State Assembly. I live in Times Square, Hell's Kitchen, Chelsea. I'll be, my district is where you're having the communism. I'd like to join you there. I definitely would. And I got a calling, so I'm not a politician. Do you mind? I'm telling you the truth, you know? I got a calling. I was Democrat my whole life. I really wasn't political, but then I saw what they were doing. I left the Democratic Party. I became unaffiliated independent. And then I jumped into this race, and you may think I'm nuts. I don't care. I'm saying the truth. The good Lord said become a Republican. The day that it was the last day there was to sign up, you know. So I faced that issue in the entertainment field, which I'm a member of the Screen Actors Guild. I'm in a field that's traditionally very liberal, right? So, but I also have the independent line, so I'll be on both ballots, Republican and independent. And I think maybe the good Lord helped me with that too, because I heard those stories about being knocked off the ballot, and I didn't face any of that. So the issue that I feel so strongly about, and you are so knowledgeable, thank you, that I always had that feeling, even though I'm new at this, that the policies that are in place, the current regime, I'm going to call it a regime because that's what I think it is. You know, they pretend they like the little people. Someone said, don't say little people, you know, like normal, hardworking, whatever. They are all rich, they're getting richer every minute. All the policies forward-facing are that they are for poor people, but meanwhile they're going to knock down the Fulton Chelsea. Maybe they won't, it's in court. And I'm learning about that issue, that they don't vote. We were going to send in a voter registration. They said they voted more than they did the last time. I think that as Republicans, or anybody trying to fight with the nightmare that's going on, I've been trying to get a think tank together to figure out how we can get people to get up off their couches, or wherever they sit, or whatever they're doing. I'm really shocked at the Republican Party in New York State.
But
I mean,
I want to interject because
yes.
I think in my experience, right, in organizing, I truly find that it's the people that's the problem. And sometimes we're overburdened with working 2 to 3 jobs to pay the bills, right? Sometimes, you know, we're just giving up so long ago because we've been disenfranchised through the petitioning period where our voices aren't heard. We don't get to really select the people that are running. You know, they're chosen for us. And therefore, many people have just thrown in the towel. But the reality is that, you know, because people are not taking a stand, because people are not voting, because they've given up, this is why we're in the shape that we're in today. And the DSA has been making a move since 2018 before that. And this is why Cuomo pushed the cashless bail, because he was pressured into that. And we have our politicians now, rhinos, that are being pressured, people like Hakeem Jeffries, We're gonna flip-flop, you know, Pelosi, what's the name, Hochul, who flip-flops like a fish out of water every single time. All they care about is holding their seat, holding their power. This is why Bernie Sanders is holding everybody's hands, because he wants to continue to stay relevant, right? And
I don't mean to, I think what I'm saying, what I want to say to you is you're very strong when you speak. You're very powerful. And the same day that I saw that thing about 9/11, a garbage shredding event, paper shredding, I watched a video by Elon Musk, who said this is not the time to sit back and do nothing. So when I first got into this.
I want to add something else. MTV or Hollywood, they had they had some sort of Hollywood concert on 9/11
Yes, I remember that.
at UBS.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah.
Their whole strategy is to minimize it, and that is how Mondani got in office, like the young people do not know about what happened. So I may be, you're fighting, I'm fighting, you're fighting in your own ways.
Ruben Cruz is fighting.
Ruben Cruz is fighting, and I believe that it's our job to fire people up. I want to get to the crux of why they're not doing it. I agree with you, that's the reason. But I always felt that a lot of the things I've been at, it's always a litany of what goes wrong instead of what are we going to do about it. I would like to have strategies.
When you said you were at Fulton Chelsea, right, you said that,
Yes.
actually the thing is that I've actually gone after Gavin Centron lost his life, which caused the resignation of the chair and CEO of NYCHA, the largest public housing system in the nation, Greg Russ. I went to every single door and gave a flyer out, and I recorded myself having conversations.
Wow.
That's thousands of flyers I paid for on my
Wow.
own. No, okay, that's wow, but after that, anybody want to guess how many hits I got on my website? Want to guess? Did someone say none? Yeah, guess. None. Zero. Okay? The thing is that we gotta start trusting the ones that's been with us, that they give us, and start trusting the ones that's been with us.
Yeah.
When I go on Saturday, Sophie Cunningham's gonna be in town for Indiana Fever. I think TPUSA is gonna be down there, so is Moms for Liberty. You want to go down there, I don't care if Blakeman shows up, I don't care if Jose Hernandez show up, he's not here with me, he's not backing me up. I will use my loud voice and be like, yo, what's your name again?
Christine.
I'll be like, yo, Christine, that's the one. I'll use all my power. I'll say, yo, my man Mel right here, this is the guy. Yo, the cameras flock around, Blakeman, yo, I could be your friend, but he ain't calling me. He ain't picking the phone for me. So I'm gonna stick with you and I'm gonna hype you up. So that's what I'm saying. If you wanna do something with you, bring me with you. I look out for the people that look out for me, and I got your back, 100%.
Well, I'm very impressed by you.
I just want to say that I think a lot of the Republican candidates are missing out on one important thing, social media.
Oh,
If
yes.
you're going out there, you have to post, because the only way people are going to see it is if you post online. Because nowadays, everybody's on their phone. That's all they do. They're scrolling, they're at work, they're on their phone, they're in bed on the phone, they're waking up on the phone. So if people are not there, or if people are there, you have to start conversations online. People have to start commenting, posting, sharing it. And once you do that, like Nick Shirley, then you could be the next, the next politician in New York. And that's what we need, postings.
All right, so why don't we try to get back on topic a little bit, because we're talking politics, and actually I thought we were going to talk about more like the housing issues in New York. Does anybody have anybody on that, Ruben?
I'm overwhelmed, number one, by the knowledge everyone has here. And thank you for getting us back on topic, because there's so much to talk about. And I'm going to try really hard to just focus on what we're talking about right now. Many people who know me know that I talk about the topic of housing a lot. I worked with Council Speaker Quinn in the Lower East Side, East 4th, between Bowery and 2nd Avenue. And what they did is, I worked with at least 4 theatrical companies, and they gave them 3 buildings right next to the MoMA for $1. The idea being that the city couldn't renovate those buildings, But if they sold it to a theatrical company, they could ask for SOFA funds and other funding to do the renovations. The renovations were 18 million per building. And that made me think about, okay, that's really nice. I'm an autistic person. The theater is in my background. It's great that these theater groups of people who are financially well off got to get a building for $1. And I advanced that into working with people in Niger who have no real knowledge about life outside of Section 8. I spoke to 10 presidents, and I said, you know what, we just gave buildings to a theater group for $1. How would you feel, I'm talking to all of us here, you live in Niger, how would you feel if I gave you your apartment for $1? I'm going to pull back a little bit for a second. Our New York City average rate of employment, I think the maximum average is around 39,000, 36,000 on average citywide. So imagine 500,000 families living in Niger getting an apartment for $1. Their net worth would increase exponentially to what? 300,000 to 600,000. Let's make it $400,000. Your apartment worth in Niger, overlooking the water, and they can apply for funding to renovate the buildings. The asbestos problems that are prevalent in there, the lead work, all of that nonsense, but they will qualify for funding. Now, I spoke to a president about this, of their building. I think it's a wonderful idea, especially since that day we saw 4 people in black suits looking longingly at the building.
Yeah.
Right? So we know that there's investment that way. We know companies that take over, Riseboro or whatever, and who benefits, not us. But if we were to do that to these families, our average income would jump from 39,000 to what?
I want to talk about that.
But I'm imagining big, hopeful picture. Is it irrelevant? I never heard of TOPA before or COPA today. And I've been working on this since the pandemic. I would like your thoughts about that because everybody shoots it down, including the president who said, yeah, but what about my Section 8? Because they're stuck in that.
Well, they're stuck in the tenant mentality on that, and the dependency, the cycle of dependency that we talked about. But people have to remember that when you acquire a piece of real estate, the acquisition cost is not the only cost you're going to have. They're taking on responsibility. So you need people who will be responsible to make the repairs, because they can't just call 311 and complain, because I know they think like tenants, but if you're a property owner, guess what? It's your property, and if you're a shareholder in a co-op, you shouldn't be calling 311, because all you're going to do is hurt the building in which you own shares. But they do that all the time, as you know. But they do this constantly, because so you have an ongoing obligation. When the HDFCs were really prevalent, which was the late 70s and early 80s, even though they've continued there, but that's when they mostly were done.
Yes.
It was because the landlords could not afford the upkeep. So the tenants were buying their apartments at a minimal price, but then you also had to agree to make the renovations, to pay for it. There was a giant flip tax, which is a fee that goes back to the corporation. You couldn't just buy your apartment for $1 and sell it the next week for $600,000.
Yeah.
In fact, 90% of the profit went back to the corporation in the first 2 years, then it was 80% in the next 2, 70%, it was a sliding scale. The theory was to get people to purchase inexpensively, but who would continue to make an investment to improve the property, to bring it out of the level of degradation that it was in. How did it get to that level of degradation? Well, gee, we had high interest rates, we had outrageous real estate taxes, we had you know, all sorts of regulations that have to be paid for. So so when you look at it, you got to, again, remember what I started the whole discussion with. Look at the unintended consequences. Look at what's seen and what's not seen. Look at the entire panoply of things. Okay.
So can you do it or not?
I would not do it.
I
They probably won't.
I actually have
I
a
don't
lot
think
of
they will.
engineering for public housing.
Hold on.
You want to say something
We
first?
have, no, we have a question here.
Okay. Real quick, something that I noticed, or I should say that I think should be acknowledged, is the campaign / the canvassing that the Zoran administration and like his team has been doing, trying to organize the tenants and everything. What would you suggest as people involved with the New York City housing, landlords and everything? What would you do to counter that?
Well, I'm not a politician. These gentlemen are.
Can I answer that question?
Yeah,
I am
you
too.
can.
I'm
Yeah,
a
I'm sorry.
politician.
The three
you bring
people
up
on
a
my left. I'm
very
sorry.
valid point.
I'm not running for any office.
It's all right.
No, he brings up a very valid point. So there's a war right now on housing. And what's going on, there's a program through HPD called PIP, the Partners in Preservation. And Partners in Preservation are mainly companies that have benefited from the third-party transfer. They continue to benefit from government contracts, and over the course of 3 years, they earn $9.9 million. So that's a total of $3.3 million a year. And you would expect that if somebody's receiving $3.3 million a year, that they will be able to do the work. But at the mayor's office, he's using the public engagement unit, a unit that I work for, as his personal canvassing team. And what we're doing is we're door knocking at Pinnacle Buildings, C&E or A&E Management, and I forgot the other one, the buildings that he's specifically targeting. Why? Because these companies do not pay to play. Like Riseboro pays to play, like you have pays to play. So the companies that are not paying their bid to the Democratic Party are being extorted, and they're coming after them by the full force of New York City agencies. So my question is, why is a city agency taking away their manpower to support NGOs and CBOs that are receiving $3.3 million a year that should be doing the work? It shouldn't be used like that. It's an abuse of authority. He abuses authority when he froze the rents, and he continues to abuse his authority, campaigning with people everywhere he goes, rather than protecting New Yorkers. I just want to hit on this because, we talk about Zoran Mandani has blood on his hands because of the people that were attacked up in the Upper East Side of Manhattan, but we forget the 24 deaths, the 24 homeless deaths. The 20 homeless deaths in the winter, right? The 4 homeless deaths in the summer through extreme heat. And these are all because he doesn't know how to govern. His policies suck. He doesn't know what he's doing. So, and that's the basic point. When you don't know what you're doing, this is he should be in jail. This is called neglect. And any parent who neglects their child is in jail. But people of elite status, they don't get the ramifications of the law.
Thanks. I'll pass to you next. I'm sorry. Okay, just so you know, I'm actually one of the few experts. I'm actually an expert in public housing. I'm one of the few people that has a history of the Public Housing Act going back to the Obama era when it was passed. And there's something called the 964 regs. And if you're looking for a tenant association president who can talk, I've talked to many of them. They've all been documented on my channel. Carmen Canosa is probably one on the front edge of talking about something called resident management councils. And someone named Khalil Anderson was trying to pass a law right now to enforce, not just to tell the residents about the right to own the homes, because the thing is that what happens is actually we have a wolf, and we have a wolf in sheep's clothing. So if you want to talk about public housing, you really should be talking to me because I have the most time, and actually, but a lot of people don't for some reason. And as in terms of answering your question over there, as in terms of how we're going to go and get people to involve themselves, I tell people straight up, right, as a legislator, I don't really have a lot of power. The fact of the matter is, as a first-term legislator, I'm really controlled by the party leadership. Really, so what if I pass a law? They say that weed's illegal and everybody out there smoking, no one's prosecuting them, and the judges dropping the charges. What's really essential is the judges, and the judges really haven't been accountable. So really, I do support Project Civica at a base level, and I'm outnumbered by over 8-1 in my district, so nobody wants to run because they want to win. I don't give it, well, I do want to win, but the way to win, the pathway to winning is taking over block by block. So that's my whole strategy. So, but is Project Civica helping me? let's be real, they're not. You know what I mean? They actually brought in a candidate from Florida, because honestly, when you actually, do too well, sometimes you're considered a threat. I don't do a damn. I get out of my way, I'll run you over. You know what I mean? Help me or don't. You know what I mean? I'm coming for you.
I have a question to Mark there, especially when it comes to housing courts on these co-ops and
Sure.
condos. I'm sure you've been through a lot of them. The problem we seem to see a lot of, is you're not getting a fair shake in most of these courts, okay?
Okay,
Can you
so,
sort of
yeah.
give
So let me
advice?
talk about it a little bit, because I know
And
that
this is
my panel has a lot of experience in areas where I might not. I've got about 45 years experience in L&T courts. So, there's 700 cases a day filed in landlord-tenant court, so you obviously, and most of them, the landlord is right, the tenant owes the money. But in New York, it's all procedure. It's, did you dot the i's? Did you cross the t's? You only served it twice, you have to serve it 3 times, and you didn't serve it during these hours, it has to be during these hours. And the predicate notice, nope, you need to give, if you're not going to renew the lease now, you've got to give a 90-day notice. It's 30 days if it's less than 1 year, 60 days if it's a year or 2 years, and if it's 2 years or more, you got to give a 90-day notice of the intention not to renew the lease, and that's
So
on.
you need a reason why.
Right, and now you need a good faith reason, but in a co-op you don't actually. So co-op you don't need to do that. But, which another advantage of co-ops, but all of those rules apply to co-ops too. Condos are different. Condominium association to condo owner is not a landlord-tenant relationship. The condo owners, the unit owners, are members together in a condo association. They might be renting out their apartments, in which case they're in the same parts, the condo parts in the L&T courts, but condos are separate. Co-ops are completely subject to landlord-tenant law, which means that if a shareholder is blowing the trumpet at 3 o'clock in the morning repeatedly, and I serve 19 notices and they still continue to do it, I got to take them to the landlord-tenant court in order to enforce the co-op's rules and regulations. And that's an expensive, long process. It's supposed to be a summary proceeding. It's supposed to go like that. So landlord-tenant court, to get a tenant out, I always tell people 9 to 15 months. Could be more, could be 2 years, depends on how well they fight it. So let me finish, please. So landlord-tenant court is overwhelmed. There's not a lot of judges. There are 700 cases a day. You know, if you go on Sutton Boulevard, go into the civil court at Sutton Boulevard, and you'll see that, there's 70 cases on the calendar for that day. You think judge's going to adjudicate 100? You think judge's going to adjudicate 100 cases? Of course not. Because they're going to get adjourned. They're going to get adjourned to next Tisha B'Av. They're going to get adjourned to 100 years from now. They're going generally. So this obviously inures to a tenant's benefit
They
because
adjourned last week because of the heat wave.
well, because it was too hot.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, you understand. It's like, okay, there's New York City, we have a moratorium on evictions for Christmas. But that moratorium for Christmas evictions now runs from December 15th to January 15th. So, so it's a very long Christmas. I thought it was supposed to be 12 days. But, so there's a myriad of rules and regulations. Having said that, it's actually easier to enforce the rules in a co-op than it is in a condo because the co-op does have that power to terminate the proprietary lease. Does that actually happen? Very rarely. I mean, there's a very famous case called Pullman, which dealt with a guy on the Upper West Side who punched his neighbor in the nose and sued the building 42 times. His neighbor happened to be a Columbia professor, so he filed suit. So the building they actually terminated his lease for bad behavior. So that is so difficult. So I tell people, you want to get somebody out, it's going to cost you, $50,000 in 2 years. So I mean, you want to spend $50,000 and spend 2 years litigating or not? That's up to you. So it is always better to use the threat of litigation than to actually play the court. Because when you're playing the courts are so stacked. The judges, they go by the rules. The rules are very, very pro-tenant. They become even more so. Now it's a 15-day notice, not a 5-day notice. It's a this notice, not that. The marshal still gets 3 notices. You still have to go get 15 different orders to show cause. The tenants can get, there's lots and lots of games playing Landlord-tenant court is games playing. That's all it is. It's the, you know, you're putting up, did you cross this fence, did you cross this street, you're putting up blocks. So that's how landlord-tenant court works. And I've got literally 45 years in those courts, so I know what goes on.
We'll, we'll be at the housing court on Monday. Do you know about that?
I have another question.
About NYCHA? Sorry. just
No, I have no
mentioned.
knowledge of NYCHA.
Yeah.
I don't know what NYCHA is, so you guys talk about NYCHA.
I'm sorry, I did have just a separate question, yeah, so the thing is that in Long Island City, there's something called Kaufman Astoria Studios. They also have that legendary kind of like the Silver Cup Studios, like the sign.
Yeah.
And they're being foreclosed on. And the thing is that I feel like that kind of, that business actually is kind of like an anchor, kind of like Lincoln Center is like for like, you know, the upper, you know,
It's a private building, though. I knew an office that, I knew a management company that had their offices in there, in the Silver Cup building.
So I asked them-
Foreclosure is different. Foreclosure's got nothing to do with eviction.
So-
Foreclosure is
I asked-
somebody defaulting on their mortgage.
Yeah, so I asked the investment banker, right, who I know, because the thing is that I don't want to see it go, and she said that the whole film industry is going down because like AI stuff is replacing the backgrounds and stuff. So she says that she doesn't feel comfortable showing it to her clients to like maybe, but maybe you could have a suggestion because I think that like, you know, that soundstage is cool, you know.
The New York Film Center is in your district, and the New York Film Center Cafe across the street that I used to go to all the time, it's been closed. I mean, unfortunately, the industries are not the same. When I started as a lawyer in the early 1980s, I worked in the garment district. We had a garment district in New York City. We really don't so much anymore. I mean, but I worked in One Penn Plaza, and my clients were garmental manufacturers on 37th Street. 1407 Broadway was a showroom building. 1375 was a dress building. So, I mean, a lot of those industries are no longer there. Filmmaking and the arts kind of came back in the 80s with people like Susan Seidenberg and some of the other people on the Lower East Side, but then it sort of died again. So, but that building is being foreclosed on by the lender because the owner is in default of their mortgage. So that's a different issue. So, you know, if you foreclose, you then put the property up for auction to pay the debt of the judgment or whatever's being foreclosed on. So whoever buys the property could keep that sign or not. So now we're getting into a different issue in which I think the Republicans are in favor of property rights. So should I be forced to keep a sign on my building if I just bought it, even though it's been there for so many years and it says, say, Silver Cup Studios, and I just bought the building and I don't like Silver Cup Studios sign? Should I be forced to keep that sign?
Landmark.
Well, Landmark, okay, so Landmark is a New York City policy by which we designate what people can do with their property. So, for example, I live on the Upper East Side. So the Upper East Side from 3rd Avenue to the park is a landmark district, but on my side, which is on between 1st and 2nd, is not in the landmark district. So where I live is not a landmark building. It's a very nice building. I like my building. But theoretically, it's okay. But if I was a few blocks over and I wanted to change the facade and paint it blue with purple polka dots, I'm not allowed to because it's in the landmark district. So basically what we have is we have socialist policy telling me what I can do with my property. So actually, but we haven't even talked about zoning law. I mean, what's the zoning law do? I mean, zoning, same thing. So the zoning law came because the Equitable Life Insurance Building, which is 120 Broadway, was too big. It was so big that it blocked everything and it went the whole way and it was really too big. So they passed the zoning regulation in 1937 and and the zoning reg is like this. Now the zoning reg is like this, you know, and it covers so many things. But, you know, this is the way government works.
May I ask one question?
Sure.
One, you are so knowledgeable that it's mind-blowing. If you could choose one thing, one major thing that we should fight for or work towards to better the situation. It's
Liberty.
Okay, but how are we going to apply that in the...
You can apply it across everything. Everything I said.
Get rid of 311.
Yeah,
Well, that's an
well,
interesting
yeah, I mean,
concept.
all right, no, I mean, yeah, I mean, to put it into the context of today's conversation, right? I believe that rent control laws have really been deleterious to this city. I think they've destroyed the city. You don't have rent control in Houston, and Houston has grown. We have rent control here. The only reason that New York hasn't gone underneath is because you have people who want to be in New York. I mean, New York is my base. I've lived in New York for 70 years. I'm not going anyplace else. But I think that New York, is got problems, and part of those problems are because you've got, I mean, now I'm going to go back into like philosophy. So Rand talks a lot about the people who do, Ayn Rand talks a lot about the people who are the producers and actually do something, and the people who are like, just taking, the takers, and I forget what she calls them, the thieves, right? So what do we have in New York? We have probably 25,000 thieves for every 2 producers. So, so we have a very inequitable system in New York. But, but the people who mooch are there's a lot more moochers voting than there are non-moochers voting. So, so it's a difficult situation. So I would eliminate rent control.
But you know what you should look into also? Oh, the Office of Administrative Hearings.
Oh, that would eliminate them too. They're horrible.
That eliminate first day on the job.
Yeah.
What is
So
it?
that's okay. This is like you get a parking ticket and it says you get a ticket. No, you get a ticket because you didn't recycle properly. New York City loves to give tickets for not recycling properly.
No, you have
You
to
didn't
explain it
recycle,
better.
right? So you didn't recycle properly. So you got a ticket and it says plead guilty and it'll be $50, or come and fight this on Tuesday, January 23rd, which of course you're busy then, right? At this Office of Hearings that they
But
call
the
Oath.
Office of Hearings has many administrations and many departments. So
And that
basically
Office of Hearings, if you fight it, by the way, it's going to be $500, not $50.
you have DOB, you have FDNY, you have DSNY, you have Department of Health, you have all these departments that give out tickets to everybody, to landowners, to homeowners, to property owners, and once they give you the ticket, now you have to go and defend yourself because you're automatically guilty. Now when you first of all, they changed the laws during COVID. You were able to go to these offices, now it's all remote. You have to sign in 3 days in advance. You have to let them know who's representing you, either yourself or somebody else. And once you check in with them, you have to call in on the date. You will get a judge from the city. The judge will have an attorney for the department representing the ticket and saying that you're guilty, and then you can represent yourself. So now it's 2 against 1, and you're not allowed to talk. You're not allowed to defend yourself. You're only allowed to defend yourself for like a second after they've spoken and after they declared how guilty you are and how bad you are, and you're still guilty, even if you provide
And you're
evidence.
subject to a much higher fine. So it's a Stockholm Syndrome thing. Stockholm Syndrome is basically we torture people and then we let them like not be tortured for a few minutes.
Yeah.
So that, and then we remind them though that we can torture you again.
And these-
So the city says we can charge you $500, but I'll tell you what, plead guilty and it'll be
500 is
$50.
on a good day. There's tickets that are out there for $25,000, $50,000. Some construction sites get 10 violations in one shot.
Fire department
And
does
they-
this all
These
the
are
time.
policies that continue to be ignored by the very same politicians that we vote for.
Yeah, by the way,
And this
these
is
policies
exactly why
have been
people
in
like us are running.
place when we've
You
had
can look it up.
Democrats and
You can look up
Republicans.
all the penalties.
They've
City
been in
council
policy
has
under
like a
everything.
booklet.
All these policies were in place under the Giuliani administration.
Yes, it's
All
nothing
of
new.
this is nothing, this is not a Democratic thing. This is not something against Mondami. I mean, as evil as he is, he didn't create this.
Yeah, it's been going
But
on for
he's,
many years.
but I'm speeding it up though. He's making the process much
But
faster.
Sir.
They changed the
I was going to
penalties.
just say, with the oath, today I went to go fight a ticket. I have 2 tickets. One, I'm like a co-owner in a restaurant. One ticket is $2,000, one is $6,000. The one for $2,000, I had to, I guess I said I'm gonna, it gave me like a chance to pay half. So I paid $800 for that $2,000 ticket.
Same thing, yeah. So
Good
Stockholm
job.
said,
That's
yeah.
very difficult to do. Good job.
No, the thing is that if you have like if you're a landlord and you start taking in like vouchers and stuff for the homeless, the thing is that sometimes the city doesn't pay it for a year or 2. You know about that?
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah, of course.
Sure.
But it's guaranteed money though, it's coming.
No, there's
And-
no one
Not
to
really.
talk to either.
Not really.
Okay.
You can't call them, there's no call center, you can't get in touch with anybody, no one's answering emails.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people who have city thefts, they
Yeah.
really suffer with the whole voucher situation because the landlords are not able to get their payment. And once they're not able to get their payments, the tenants become really horrible, and, you know, and you cannot evict them either. When you go to court, it's very, very difficult to
Also,
evict
there's-
them.
Same problem was with Screes back from years ago. Screes, a senior citizen
Rent
exemption, right. So the tenants got this lower, got to pay a less rent. The city was supposed to make it up to the landlords by letting you get an exemption against your real estate taxes, so that you would just be a pass-through. But guess what? You got to give the tenant that benefit today, and maybe in 2 years you'll get it back. You know.
It hurts the homeless too. It hurts the people getting the vouchers, because the thing is that now all these extra rules, it's illogical to think that not only that, but if I'm going to rent to this person who has a voucher, the city has to do an inspection first. So that could take sometimes the person doesn't come for a month or two, and that person found another apartment. So because I'm so incentivized to find another, even though by law I'm forced to take that person, I'm going to find a way not to do it. And this happens all the time. So it's hurting both people.
Absolutely, and then part of it is also, I mean, we have such a large city, we have such a humongous bureaucracy, and there's all these cottage industries. You know, if you want your building plans approved by the Department of Buildings for this renovation that you're doing, you need an expediter to get through. And an expediter basically is somebody who plays golf with the guy in the building department, goes bowling, goes drinking or whatever. And therefore, you pay the expediter a fee, and he takes care of the guy that, I mean, there's lots of this
No, an
stuff going on.
expediter basically has to file the paperwork to ensure that everything is filing through, because engineers and architects don't do the paperwork, because it's so much paperwork and so many TRs and so many completions that you have to do, that architects and engineers don't have time for that, and they also frankly don't have the knowledge for that.
And the expediter knows whose palm he's greasing and who to talk to. That's hence the name expediter.
Mark, you talked about the 700 housing filings
A
every
day.
day. Is there a website or organization that keeps tracks of how many of these scores have been filed? Which ones are co-op related? Which are condo related?
Well, I mean,
which are housing?
I don't know that there's a particular website that does that. I mean, obviously, New York City has. I mean, you can get on the site for the court. All right. So landlord-tenant is a part. It's not a court. It's a part of the civil court of the city of New York. The civil court of the city of New York sits in all 5 boroughs. So the civil court in this borough is on Sutton Boulevard. The big main courthouse is Supreme, and then the more modern one, closer to the LIRR station, is the civil courthouse. And that's where the landlord-tenant cases are heard in Queens County. There is New York State Courts has a website that you can get on, and you could monitor cases. Not every case, some cases are paper cases, not every case is there. But there's supposed to be a separate part within the landlord-tenant part, so let's say there are 4 of them. One of them is for HP cases. That's where the tenant has called 311, and HPD, the Housing Preservation and Development, is trying to enforce making sure that the landlord will cure the defaults of the tenant. So whatever cure the defaults under the housing code. So that's one part. Another part is for co-op and condo cases, and then the others are straight rental cases. So usually, I think Queens has 5 in total, 5 parts.
There's no way they publish those numbers.
I don't know. Well, I'm not sure. I mean, the 700 is what I hear. I mean, it could be, and I think it's 700 per county. Maybe not Richmond County, but Kings certainly, Bronx certainly, Queens certainly.
Yeah, because I remember reading a number about 3 years ago that HPD landlord-tenant cases, 45% of the tenants, entire HPD do not pay they're late on the rent.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Well, that's like saying, you haven't paid your bill, so you don't pay your bill, so what do? You say, well, I don't have to pay the bill because there's lead paint here, or there's this problem.
My light bulb doesn't work.
Yeah, my light bulb doesn't work, yeah. Exactly.
That's not the way it should work, though.
That's half an entire, house.
Yeah, that's not the way it should work. Units should be, what's the word? They should receive abatements according to the violations, right? How long the violations were there, the impact on the unit. So let's say if I have a 2-bedroom, one of those bedrooms I couldn't use because it had a leak for X amount of time, let's say 3 months. So I would subtract.
Should be a partial abatement on rent, right? Exactly, but they want to not pay at all. Also, I'll give you extremes. My light bulb doesn't work, okay, I mean, there's a term for that, it's called total bullshit, right? Versus, I'm not getting heat, okay? I mean, actually, landlords have an obligation to provide heat, or I'm not getting water. I mean, so there are certain things, I don't want to say that every tenant is always wrong, or every landlord is always right. There are times where landlords are depriving tenants of essential services, and, you know, the contract, we do make a contract, it's called a lease, and it does provide that you're supposed to give them heat. So that's, or water,
Yeah,
or
of
something.
course, and
So
they
those
deserve to
are
get the basic
legitimate
stuff,
reasons.
yeah.
But it's so undermined when you have all these picayune, ridiculous.
But you know, these big corporate landlords are moving away from providing heat with these new HVAC systems.
Yes.
So they're moving away from that, and they're putting the onus onto the tenants because it's all electrical now through the local law 97.
And the tenants are responsible for the bill.
Yes, that's
Right, and
correct.
who passed local law 97?
The Democrats.
Our legislature, which is supposed to be helping the people, passed a bill that basically is gonna cost everybody
Now
more
new
money.
buildings cannot put gas in their houses.
Right, yeah.
So you can't even convert to gas if you want it, or if you.
I'm gonna fight that in Congress.
And if you cook, I don't know how many people here cook, but if you cook, I kinda like to be able to control the size of the flame that I'm cooking with, but you can't with an electric stove.
They had the NESI program, you should look into it, when Andrew Cuomo was back in office. During 2020, they did not supply gas to any building for like a year. It was called the NESI pipeline program. And the gas company really suffered with it because they couldn't open accounts and they were losing money because they didn't have clients.
Okay, I think we could keep going on, but I don't know how much more, yeah, but I have an early plane tomorrow today, so I'd like to.
So I guess the question, Anthony, you want Ida, Michelle, anybody else want to ask a question?
Jim?
Okay, let me, in the case, the last question of the evening is to Jim, okay?
Thank you, Dan. Mark, I'm not sure if I made clear to you, that one of the distinguishing features of this club is that it sometimes invites people from parties other than Republican to talk here. And as I didn't make any bones about the fact that you're a libertarian, okay? Capital L libertarian, okay? That's one of the reasons that this is not an official club. It's not affiliated with the Queen's organization. We're like, there are several clubs here that are like outcasts. Anyway, that aside, the Libertarian Party calls itself the party of principle. I wonder if you could talk just concisely for a minute or two about that and maybe relate it to real estate matters.
Okay, well, libertarianism per se is a policy of freedom. You should be free to do what you want. If you want to do something stupid and shoot heroin in your veins, you shouldn't go to jail for it. It's a stupid thing. If you break into my apartment to try to steal my possessions to pay for your stupid act, that's different, because now that's a crime against me. But I should not be able to tell you what to do. You should not be able to tell me what to do. So, I mean, traditionally, the argument was that Democrats want to tell you how to spend your money and what to do with your pocketbook, and the Republicans wanted to tell you what to do in the bedroom, because they're against abortion and against homosexuality and all these things. Over time, that's kind of eased up a little bit, particularly within this circle. But those were the traditional arguments back from the 70s. Libertarianism is basically a philosophy of freedom, but it's a philosophy of freedom coupled with responsibility. I should be able to do what I want, but I'm also responsible for my actions. I'm responsible for myself. So going back to the heroin addict, that even means that if you're going to a public hospital so that you're going to be to cure you or to pay for that, why am I paying taxes to support your outrageous actions? Now, I know I'm taking an extreme position here, but it's a theory of freedom. So in the housing market, I should be able to cut a deal with Tzlil and say, I want to rent your apartment, and she'll say, fine, it's $1,000, and you can have it for $1,000 a month, and you can have it for 1 year, and we should have that deal, and at the end of the deal, the year's over, and we can either make a new deal or not. It's sanctity of property, sanctity of contract, sanctity of free individual responsibility. I mean, there's more to it, but that's basically the theory behind it. So does that theory work? Well, it worked in this country probably for the first 50 years or so, and then we had a few periods maybe after the Civil War. Certainly has not been the case since Wilson and Roosevelt and those days.
1913.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess I'm going to our speakers to say any last words. Tzlil, you want to say the last words and the mark, and then.
Well, just thank you for inviting me.
And then we'll end the meeting after you want to say the few last words.
I think this is for the politicians who are running. I think it's very important to have a clear mind and understand how the city works and how people suffer from the fines and violations, how people are losing out on their homes, their properties, their rights because of violations, tickets, summonses, foreclosures that the city puts on people. And I think the most important thing is to look at the city council and see what laws they're passing every day, because every day they're just renewing the policies, changing them, and updating the ticket fines and the prices that are associated with it.
Marking last words.
Yeah, okay, great. Again, thank you for inviting me. It's been very educational for all of us, and I particularly wish you guys good luck, because I ran a political party for many years, but I did not run for office purposely because I know what being on the front lines is like, so I wish you very good luck.
Thank you. I didn't have a chance really to tell you about really what I'm running for and the platform and everything, but I thank you for the chance to at least come and say hello.
And to sing for us.
And I sang for you, so I do agree with you. The frustration is the city council, we can't do, it's an overall picture, like libertarian. Big picture, big picture. That's what I think.
And that's exactly why people like myself, and like you, like Ed, like Ruben Cruz are running homegrown talent, because what's happening is that in city council, most of these people are gentrifiers, over half of them, and the other half are so scared that they're voting their way anyway because they don't want to lose their power. And the reality is that, New Yorkers are not voting, and the people that are voting are DSA members, which are gentrifiers, and they're going to continue to vote their people in if we don't step up and, vote the right way. So we're the common sense party, we're the party of empathy, we're the party of meeting people in the middle. I say that I'm the only Democrat in the race because when it comes to democracy, we have to compromise, and the DSA refuses to compromise, and that is not, diplomacy. That's tyranny, and we have to put an end to this madness.
I want to give a big shout out to the whole panel. I thought they were awesome. I'm glad to do some of the candidates that's running today. I want to give a shout out to Central Queens Republican Club for being, such an inspiration and for helping me get on the ballot. Check out licgop.com. That's my website. And once again, I love what my man said right here. We're out here to talk to you, hear what you have to say. I got a Facebook group where you guys can interact. It shouldn't be about those two people can show up project positions with priorities. That's why, once again, I want to shout out Project Civica, because it's very important that you get involved, because we can't do it by ourselves. We need the community. God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. The winner of the 50-50 raffle is Cristina. You won the 50-50 raffle.
Whoa!
Mark, you also basically you pick anything you like from the table. Okay, Cristina, okay. If there's no more other comments, questions, I want to thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
You're really incredible. Pleasure. Thank you.
During the meeting. Opposed?
Nice to meet you.
Thank you very much for coming.
Clear about that.
Okay, so this is the end of our meeting. What do you think? A little bit different setup. And I'm going to cross over here to protect my candidate. Let's see you next time. If you have some questions, why not just leave them here in the program, and we'll answer them best we can. Have a good night.
We're here at the Republican Housing Summit with Tzlil Levy. Go ahead, shout out your stuff. She did a cool job today. Talking about commercial real estate.